One of the things that Brian said is, and this, I saw this in electronics because I came out of the same industry he did a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But this whole issue of trying, if you want to be successful and do new things, you have to let go of something. And the dress code is an example of letting go of something. Everybody gets comfortable and then they get uncomfortable. I see people when we work with companies, that's probably it's not doing new things. Everybody's got lots of really good ideas, but they can't stop anything. They can't abandon it. And
yeah, I mean, the real challenge is if you try to do something new and you have a limited amount of resources and you don't stop all the things that you're doing already, you put real stress on the organization because basically you become resource strapped in trying to make these big changes. And this stop doing exercise, in addition to thinking about disruptive leadership, saying, okay, what is the most important thing for us to do? We really need to understand, power over Ethernet or whatever it is. Okay, to do that, what are we going to stop doing? Because is there something that goes away when you do that? And it's a refreshing exercise. So all the things that you invest in, you also have to realize what's not the top priority any longer.
And succession planning and talent development are really at the core of that. Because,
what do you mean?
Well, I think the issue, we all have a tendency to become obsolete, unfortunately. You lose your lens of objectivity over time, and it's very difficult to maintain it. One of the best ways that we all can maintain it is by surrounding ourselves with people who come from a completely different point of view. And I attended the NAED conference, the South Central conference in Las Vegas in February, my first NAED conference. And Glenn Godicke opened the meeting and talked a lot about attracting millennials to the business. Now, we're all sitting up on stage here with jackets on. And if you look around the room, probably 60% of the men in the room, if not more, are wearing jackets. And
it's age specific, by the way.
That is not that's not what's interesting about it is when you kind of step back from it, without criticizing, because we have this in and certainly in our business in Annixter, when you step back from it, you say, does that suggest an environment that will attract the talent into the industry that we need to keep all of us sharp? And one of the other things he talked about in his presentation was the sort of outside disruptors like Amazon, as an example, who, TED Magazine just reported that they hit $1 billion in their B2B business, and they are a real player in and around our space, and they'll be nothing but bigger. And that's where they're getting those fresh ideas from. They're getting it from the new generation. And it doesn't mean that those individuals have all the experience to be senior leaders, but how do you incorporate the ideas to get those ideas up through the organization and actually make those changes? That's, I think, a tough challenge. It's one that requires succession and bench building to be a core part of your strategy, and that's a component I think a lot of companies miss.
So how much time... So how much time or how big an issue should the stuff Chris is talking about be in a company?
Well, I would say it's kind of, first of all, from the dress code standpoint, most of the manufacturers in the room know that at Graybar's headquarters, we still wear ties, suit and tie all the time. So if anybody wants to tweet out to Kathy Mazzarella that we should make a change, I'm happy to support that.
I'll do that.
You're absolutely right, and I think part of this embracing this culture of change is that, and what we find is that we all have jobs that are basically, we define it as running our business, and we have to turn profits, and we got to meet quarters and payroll and all these things, but we have to think about changing our business at the same time, and the challenge is do you short change that by making people part-time, in which we find a lot, that's what we're doing. We're telling people to do both. And to get to this place where you get kind of this Google-esque kind of world where you're bringing in people with creative ideas is really a challenge. And I think it probably is we're all from large organizations that probably can invest in sort of these separate departments. But figuring that out and putting people in it, and then how do you attract that talent? Because I think you're absolutely right. What we see is you're not going to get people wearing sport coats to come up with those ideas. You kind of got to let them alone.
So if you take a typical distributor, not giant guys like you guys, but if you take a distributor that, I don't know, they've got a handful of locations, they've got some of those long tenured relationships and the rest of it, how much actual time, other than feeling bad about all this stuff that Halsey and everybody's talking about, how much time or where does it need to be on their agenda?
Well, one of the things that really struck me this morning, and I fortunate enough to sit on the CAP Council and was there this morning, and really as an industry and as an industry organization, that really is an opportunity in that. And part of that, when I was sitting through it, I was thinking about this is an opportunity for the industry to really step up and provide that. That's what industry organizations really, the benefit of them are. And so you get a wide variety of ideas, and so the challenge for the individuals that attend those meetings and who we send to those meetings is sending the people who think that way. We were talking about it in the hall about this. There's a lot of different viewpoints in this industry about how to run your business, and many organizations are just happy to be what they are. And they don't want to change it that much, and they say we've been doing well for 60 years this way, and we don't want to. And so it's really upon the organization to when you have these CAP Council meetings and to bring things together, let's get people into those that are thinking that way, and then the output can be much more beneficial to those who can't really invest in a separate R&D department.
Sorry, at least I didn't. I would add to that. Mike, you said how much time is it? Think about it from it needs to be an ecosystem. As a small distributor, you start bringing new young talent in, get rotating them through the organization, and if you have specialty areas that are outside of the traditional, think about bringing in new expertise that's outside of what a traditional electrical distributor does. If you're going to provide a software solution, it's very difficult to have a homegrown software specialist. You can do it, try and do it, but bring that in and get this ecosystem of talent rotating through the organization. Experience and expertise and customer relationships, of course, that's paramount, but on the bottom end, planting seeds and having roots develop and grow, really, you can wake up one day and have a much stronger, healthier, talent-rich organization.
I think that's one of the real strengths of the industry, Mike, is that we are local. Even if we're part of a big company, we're local, and as you know, Sonopar is a collection of many brands in many different markets. And we really celebrate that localness, and without exception, our best ideas come from the customer intimacy that we have right down at the grassroots level, and it's about finding solutions. And then our challenge is always, can we scale the good ideas fast enough? But when we leave people to find the ideas, and that really comes by solving problems for whatever it is in terms of staging product or doing integrated supply or e-fill types of solutions, we find those ideas come out of the local group. So, to be small is to be nimble. And I think what we're seeing is big companies. We talked about the inertia of big companies as they fade away. It's because they've not been able to stay nimble.
I think when you talk about being the local and the relationships there, is like we shouldn't disparage totally the industry also, because we have the guys who wear sport coats and the people who show up every day, and they know we have huge amounts of customer knowledge. That's the envy of any kind of industry. We have these relationships, and they go back a long way. It's taking advantage of that too, and how do you transition that to the next thing and harness that power, because it really is. We are a business about people. We all distribute the same products. We all call them the same customers pretty much. I mean, if you kind of put it all together, we have this ability though to differentiate ourselves, and it's about the people who work for us. And it's about the relationships they have with the manufacturers and with our mutual end customers. That's the power in the business. So it's harnessing that really and not really throwing it out.
And there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. I think the industry association has the challenge of trying to provide that good guidance to everyone in the industry, and that's a tough job to do, because what matches one company's strategy won't match another. And I would imagine there are lots of small, really great electrical distributors in the industry who are still being run by the founder or maybe a child of the founder, but they're at the end of the life cycle, and they're now thinking about how do they phase out that business. There are probably other ones who are thinking about selling the business and being part of consolidation in the industry. We certainly have evaluated a lot of those and have participated in some larger ones. And then you have others who are going to become, what I think often is we refer to sometimes as the super regionals, who want to continue to grow and they want to expand beyond their existing state or their existing region. And so for every one of those, there's going to be a little bit of a different strategy that they'll embrace, which is fine. But if you want to survive, if it isn't based on innovation, it's just not going to happen.
Well, and you see the changes that people go through Our very first cap council project this is back in the meltdown in 2007.
Okay.
With the residential housing thing. And so we ended up spending a lot of time with contractors. And one of the things that came out of that was the contractor doesn't care how big the company is. Going to Chris's point, the contractor cares who's my counter guy and who's my field salesperson, and when doo-doo transpires, who can I reach out and touch that's going to do something? And all that knowledge. And the other thing I think that effectively has at least slowed down some of the Amazon and Uber, perhaps, is that a lot of industries, it can just be a product and you have this race to the bottom. But if you do something wrong in electrical, nobody wants to hit a light switch and die,
Well.
right? I mean, fundamentally, people don't think about dying when they go to touch a light switch because of all this infrastructure. And when I work with a lot of these smaller businesses, and it might be worth talking about in general, there's a lot of differences in small business, not just small and large. There's very well-managed small ones, and there's really, in my mind, sort of big distributors that are inertia distributors who are just kind of doing the same thing. But when you work with a well-managed distributor, the smaller guy says, the way we beat all the big guys is we can out-execute them, and we can be nimble, and we can just be really responsive, and that's where the money is. And fundamentally, it all comes back to the money. So, in terms of the, we'll dive into the distributors in a second. We'll open this up to the audience here in a second. But before we do that, I'd be very curious, and we've mentioned it a couple times already, there's competition inside the industry, right? All of us are, bumping bellies and trying to work on quotes and projects, but now there's competition from outside the traditional sources. And actually, in a way, I guess you could almost look at Annixter sort of that, wow, all of a sudden they're in the crosshairs now.
Sure, yeah.
Is this outside pressure going to be increasing, decreasing? Is it serious? I mean, if somebody wants to think about predator prey, how much they got to pay attention to it?
I think it increases, for sure.
You think it's going to increase?
I think it increases, and I probably worry more about the outside competitors. I guess I equate it to showing up for a boxing match. I'd rather know the opponent really well when he shows up in the ring than some guy that I haven't had a chance to prepare for. And I think when you couple the unpredictability with the fact that they have a lot of opportunity for innovation, they have a lens of objectivity that can also often get lost within any industry, they pose a significant threat. And the other thing that happens is we all underestimate them for a long period of time. And by the time we figure out that they're going to be significant, they have a foothold that we probably shouldn't have let them get. So I kind of operate on both ends of the spectrum. I worry about the new entrants, and then I worry about, to the point you were making a minute ago, the small guy that's very easy to underestimate because they make decisions very, very locally, very fast, and if they have a good strategy, they will execute extraordinarily well, and they'll get you every time. And so we're at Annixter, similar to Halsey's comment, we're technically a big company on revenue, but we try to operate very locally. We try to make our location managers think of themselves as the president of their location or their region, so that they don't get caught flat-footed. But in my view, you've got that two ends of the spectrum: the little guy who will get you because you didn't give him enough consideration, and the new guy who you figure doesn't know this industry and probably isn't going to be able to figure it out quickly enough.
I agree with you totally that it's going to increase. The outside forces, the size of wholesale distribution as a whole, and you take in all distribution, and we all for 60 years have served kind of the main function of holding inventory, being the bank and extending credit and offering some services around financing or logistics or inventory management. It is changing, and there's all these people on the outside looking at the size, the scale, the leverage you can get in this industry, and they're not cursed with the knowledge that we have of it, right? So that they don't know what we know, which can be good or bad. And I think that's and they're going to keep coming. And we had in the meeting this morning, somebody made a comment. We were talking about home automation and how that and sensors and all that, what's going to change. And somebody there's a statistic that 75% of the smart thermostats are not programmed. And I think there's a similar statistic back in the day of the VCRs, all the clocks are blinking 12. That was solved, right? Nobody cares anymore. My kids don't know what a DVD player is unless they're getting in the car for a long trip. Netflix and Hulu, the streaming, DVRs, nobody worries about that. A different approach came, totally different than what we thought it would be. And that's what keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Bill, I agree with Chris also. But to add on to that, I mean, when you think about the example you gave with the thermostat or this whole notion of electrical to electronic, where that not only changes the life cycle of the products that we sell and the skill set that we need to design it in, it also exposes us to a different set of competition.
Yes.
Because there are software distributors and there are systems integrators and there are electronic distributors that aren't traditional electrical distributors. And so as these technologies begin to merge and as the solution gets to be more comprehensive and more complex and our customers demand that we provide the full solution, we're going to bring into our playing field some new players. And they'll either be, there'll be competition, whatever. But at the end, when they look at it, there'll be more eyes on that solution than just the electrical distributor.
I think what we're finding also is as we get deeper into the disruptive change, and let's just say it's about the internet and it's about the online world, and the fact that Amazon has perfected this perfect order that with as you're drinking your cup of coffee with your other hand, you can order our products and they're going to show up in 48 hours, and it's never wrong. And so that's the challenge. But I think we are in several different businesses. There was a significant piece of the electrical wholesaling industry that went to big box in the 90s, and I think that's a place to be very afraid right now. And so you see a lot of the big box that are selling electrical trying to reinvent themselves to become internet companies, and who knows what they'll end up doing with all that brick and mortar, but I mean, that's the challenge they have right now. The bigger piece of our business is bigger and tougher to deliver, more complex, and quite frankly, 48 hours is way too long because we got to be there sometimes in hours. And so that's putting pressure on us to change our business model so that we can take an order up till midnight and have it there at 5 a.m. and to truly be local. And also, at that point, we've got to make the distinction between being the generalist distributor and kind of having everything to sell and being a specialized distributor that really brings a unique knowledge set and a set of services to a local problem to be solved. And so on that second count, I really see a lot of competition within the industry to be the first one to digitize and be the best at being that specialist distributor with the knowledge and with the local content and getting the order perfectly staged and everything else. So I think we're going to be fighting wars on many fronts as we move forward.